It's a cold Saturday morning in November here in the UK, so what better thing to talk about than the modifications I made to my Hero Camper Ranger to improve the airflow of the heating system. So in a previous video I spoke about the heating system that I have in the Hero Camper Ranger. It's the Kroning's 1500 plus electric heating system, so it only works when it's on grid. But in general, the system works pretty well. The heating module itself is really well equipped. It's got a good flow of air. The heating element works really well. One of the issues that I think you have though in the Hero Camper and any kind of teardrop, especially with this kind of heating setup, is you've got small and long ducting, and then obviously you have quite a small confined space for the airflow to be operating in. I think that's what causes most problems that anyone has with heating in a teardrop. So far I've made a few changes to the heating setup, and I'm about to make a final change this morning. So I thought I'd talk to you about changes I've made so far, and well, you can sit with me as we make this last change and hopefully see more of an improvement. So the first thing I'd say, this isn't anything that's recommended by Hero Camper. You may or may not invalidate warranties or anything if you decide to go ahead with it. Just sharing kind of my experiences and what I've done. So to start off, in the back I'll include some video overlays to show a few things, but what I've initially realized from some of the testing, so taking the heating element out and running some tests on that, you would have seen that in a different video. I noticed that when there was a free flow of air, it worked continuously without any issue. The heating element was constantly on. But then when it's actually positioned in the Hero Camper, all the ducting connected, there is quite a bit of a build-up of heat in that initial pipe. There's only a small pipe that kind of runs up into a T section. The heat builds up quite quickly there because obviously the flow issue occurs. I think at two areas. One, there's the T junction. So if you imagine it like water's flowing along a pipe, hits a T, and then will slowly disperse either way. Heating and the water, if it was water, is always going to flow to the easiest option. So over here, as we're inside the camper, but in the back to the left, the shorter piece, obviously the air flows quite easily there, and then a lower amount of air flows down the longer pipe to the other side. So imagine like water hitting that T junction and then slowly moving out. So the first thing I've changed is to change that T junction to a Y junction. So again, if you imagine water, if you're pouring it into something that's in a Y, to some extent the air and the water would equally just flow in both directions. So I've done that. So I used the Truma kind of Y connector to connect up the pipe there, and I did replace a little bit of the pipe for the short runs. I did buy enough for the whole run if I needed to, but the long run still kind of worked in there, and that's actually made a decent improvement in terms of airflow. And when you look at it on my thermal camera, you can see a better flow of heat and less of a build-up in that top or in that initial pipe then flowing out to the top one. So definitely something I recommend. It doesn't really cost that much money. When you're taking it apart, there's basically a Phillips head screw that's screwed into each of the bits of pipe and the plastic ducting, and that's aluminium foil as well. So take the aluminium foil off, remove the screws, and then gently pull things off. And again, if you break any of the piping, you can easily enough replace that anyway. So that was the piping. Then the rest of the changes are here inside the Hero Camper Ranger. So I'll just grab a couple of pieces and show those to you now. Okay, so here in the cabin area, as you mentioned, and you've seen in the previous videos, I do a little overlay. At the back bottom of the bed area, there are two of these covers, basically. And behind these covers are a round circular vent, and that's the ducting entry point into the cabin. So the air comes through the hole into the cabin behind this, and as you can see, it's basically just some thin, it feels like MDF, thin MDF that's coated and padded to make it look aesthetically nice. And you can see here there's about an inch in terms of the piece of wood which protrudes away from the back, and that allows the air to obviously circulate into the cabin. So you've got about an inch all the way around, but it's not actually all the way around because obviously this piece of wood is on the side. So really you can see in the thermal overlay the heat dissipates from the top and the bottom, and then comes into the cabin to heat it up. And what I noticed is when looking at the thermal imaging camera, when you look on the back of this, where the circle is that the air vent is, there's a mass amount of heat there, which obviously makes sense because that's where the air is flowing through the pipe, through the circular hole, hitting again the wood and then dispersing from the top and the bottom. So again, initially we had that T where the airflow would hit and then disperse. Then we have another kind of junction point where the airflow hits this piece of wood and then disperses up and down. So what I've done is I've modified the panel. So as you can see here, so it still looks aesthetically pleasing on the outside. I basically just measured the points of where the circular opening was hitting the back of the panel. For me that was also a bit easier because I could use the thermal imaging camera. It was very clear where the circle was when I'd taken this off. So you can see hopefully in there. Basically what I did, I got a dremeled the square opening around here, and then used a craft knife to kind of cut out the foam piece that's just in front of the fabric. And so now the air obviously will come through, hits this opening where the fabric is, but the fabric is much less dense, so the air can flow more effectively through this. So it still dissipates from the top and the bottom, but it can now flow through the fabric into the cabin, which again increases airflow. You can physically feel the heat coming further out from the heating outlet and into the cabin. So again, that's two improvements that have been made to my Hero Camper heating so far. And then let's get on to the last piece, which I'm just about to do now and take you through. Okay, so the final stage is those vents that were behind these covers. As you can see, they're circular, but they've got lots of little holes in there that obviously allow the air to flow from the back into the cabin area and obviously produce heat. Now, even though there's a lot of those little holes, they're still little holes. So imagine it a bit like a pepper or a salt shaker. Obviously, if you took the lid off, all of the salt or the pepper would fall all over your food and it would taste absolutely disgusting. So you have obviously these lots of little small holes so you can distribute and manage the flow of your salt and pepper onto your food. So that's basically what we have here. Again, the heat hits that heating vent. Instead of being able to flow freely, it hits and then has to disperse again into lots of little different holes and then out. So that's another I think opportunity to improve the heat flow. So again, going back to some Truma stuff, I bought a couple of these Truma vents. I'm hoping it's just going to be plug and play in terms of remove those vents. Should be the same size. And again, this is in the closed position, but you can then fully open that as well. So again, instead of having that pepper pot style, we're pretty much opening the top of that pepper or salt shaker, and the air can flow straight out again, then straight out through the hole in my vent or in the hole that I've cut out, and I think is going to create a much better airflow. So again, I'm just going to turn the heating on with my thermal imaging camera to show the heat coming out of the peppered vent. Then hopefully remove the vent itself. So I'm hoping that's just going to come off pretty easy. I've got a trim tool I can use to leverage and get behind that, and we'll show you that as we go. Do another thermal imaging overlay of the heat flow without that on there, and then pop this in and do a final test, and hopefully it'll be good. So I'll get myself positioned and sort the camera out, show you the thermal overlays, and then see if we can get this installed. Okay, so I'm just getting myself set up. I use a FLIR 1 thermal imaging camera that basically plugs into the bottom of my iPhone. Again, I will do an overlay so that you can see. This is basically just going to be a cold test that I'm doing now. So again, we should expect to see no heat coming from here because the heating is not currently on. Let's wait for this to boot up and we can take a little look. Okay, so you can see here, nice and cold, nothing happening. It's about 9 degrees in here, and so it's showing it's 9.5, 10ish. If I go directly over the vent, you can see really cold there. Showing about 11 degrees through the vent. So maybe the air in the kitchen area is a little bit hotter, which still may flow through here a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the heating on. Okay, so the heating's on, so we should start to see heat coming through there. As you can start to see that on the camera. It's lighting up yellow. If you look down here on the bedding, you can see a little bit of change in heat. Obviously the main focus is around here as this just turns on. So we're seeing about 24, 25, it's increasing nicely. And again, this works generally well until it kind of has a little heat build up, and then the heating element will turn off and just the fan continues to blow the hot air that's in the pipe. So let's turn this off and see if we can get the cover off. Okay, so I'm hoping we can just get our fingers behind this and then use the trim tool as we need, because I'm assuming it's just clipped in, maybe a bit of glue as well. There we are, look. That's come off very easily indeed. And just in here we can see the pipe work coming in and clipping in. So again, we'll just check that out with the camera. We can see here just a thin piece, so hopefully our new bit is going to go in there. We may have to remove a little bit of outer trim on there. Let's turn the heating on again. Okay. So already in the cabin here I can feel that airflow much better than I could through the plastic peppered cover. Again, this just makes sense, right, that this should work better, but you can feel air all the way up to here, much freer flowing through there, because there's a lot less restriction. So we'll turn that off again, and let's see how our Truma piece is going to fit. So make sure the writing's up the right way. Okay, so this is the way it wants to go in. I'm pretty sure we may have to, yeah, we have to remove this piece here, which that's just some mastic or something. So some gluey substance that was actually stuck on here. So it's not actually plastic at all. I think it's just, yeah, it's just glue. So we should hopefully just be able to push this home then without too much issue. We have to go around the back to look at the piping, because again there is a screw in the back that holds the duct in, and that's what this is pushing into. So I may need a helper, but let's see how we get on for a moment before checking them with others. So as you can see, there's these little clips on the side that we're trying to clip in to this ducting. But once in, it should look good. May just need a piece of wood and a rubber mat to persuade it a little bit. Okay, so they're both in. I just pushed them in a bit harder in the end. It does mean the black pipe behind it got pushed back just a little bit. But I've done some tests. There's no leakage behind there, so the air is coming straight out here into the cabin. And let me tell you, what a difference. It feels so much warmer in here already. So it was 9 degrees then I popped to the back whilst I turned these things on just to make sure there was no air leaking. 12.7 already, and it noticeably feels warmer coming in here, and I put my hands down and you can really feel the heat difference. So let me just pop the camera down again, put the thermal imaging camera on so we can then see again the difference in terms of the heat flow. But yeah, I'm impressed. So let's just get ourselves set back down again and see how we get on. Okay, so I've moved the camera back a bit now, and let's just see. So already you can see all that yellow here across the bed covers. Look at that. Much better. Like I say, you can really feel it. Not sure if we move the camera around, look to the other side. There's good heat flow out of both sides of here. It is amazing. I'll just put the cover back on so again we can feel what it would like when it's aesthetically pleasing. So again, this is the one with my hole cut in it. I can already hear, as the temperature's getting hotter, that the thermal cutoff is happening a lot less. So the airflow is a lot better for the heater itself, as well as what it feels like from the human perspective. So again, whenever these covers are on, obviously you're still going to have heat dissipation from here and here, not so much from the sides because there's those pieces of wood that hold the Velcro on, but we should see around here a nice heat flow. And again, I can already feel, again, it's not as good as it is when it's off, but I can already feel heat flow on there. So let's get the camera up. Look at that. Really good. So we're seeing about 56 degrees centigrade through there. And we look on the left hand side, which again is not as good because it's got further to travel anyway. It's around about 47, something like that. So yeah, I'm impressed with that. Whew, it's actually getting hot in here. So I hope that helped and inspired you to make some simple changes to really improve the heat flow in your Hero camper. I should have done this sooner, but again, we haven't really used the heating that much until we're getting close to the winter time. But I feel much more optimistic about travelling now in the winter and knowing it's not going to take hours and hours to heat up to a good usable temperature. Again, it's up to 16 degrees already now. Oh, getting hot. So Hero camper, if you're watching, because I know you do watch some of my videos, please consider perhaps changing the design slightly. So using a Y connector and some more adjustable valves and doing something with those covered panels. I'm sure you can do a much nicer design than I can, just cutting something out, make something much better. If you do decide to do that, it'd be great if you could send me some so I could have a more official Velcro cover for my heating outlets. But yeah, this has been a worthy spend of some time, and again, not too much money. I put it down below. I think those vents were about £7 each. The Y connector was probably about £10, I think. And then I bought 3 meters of the tubing, which I think was about £10 a meter or something, but I only used about a meter. But I just wanted some in case I need to replace it all and put things back to how they were. But yep, I'm getting hot, so I'm going to head out of here, I think. But thanks very much for watching. Hope this video has been helpful. Please like if it has been of interest, and consider subscribing and pressing the notification bell so I do more videos on the camper itself and talk about camping trips and accessories and all sorts of stuff like that. So yes, take care of yourselves, stay warm, and until next video, bye for now.